Let's pop a bottle. Welcome to Third Eye Champagne. I'm Kirsten, Langston, author and intuitive. This is Milani Britz, and you are very interesting. Okay, I want to get started by saying I had the pleasure of some readings with you, and I've never had readings like this in my life.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
Yeah, they're
At
really
least I'm unique.
no, it was really interesting. So you guys, what Milani does, you look at the Akashic Records, and then you
Yes.
are basically you know what does it say on your website? I think it says soul journey coach, right? Like,
I struggled so long to try and figure out what to call myself, and that is the sort of best little label that I can put on it. So yes, I see myself as a soul journey coach. So I help souls along their journey to understand their journey, to sort of align with it better, to heal sometimes, stuff that's going on in terms of the journey. And that was sort of, so there's so many little labels that you can, give yourself. But that one, if you have to do a label, then that's maybe the closest one to actually use for me at this time. It probably will change again. It does change as we sort of go along our own journey. But currently, that's what I'm calling myself.
I'm here for it. I love it. And your website's beautiful, by the way. Um,
Thank you.
so you guys, I'm going to tell you this. First of all, I think you might be our first international healer. I think you're the first person we've had on the show that's not from the US. So
Awesome.
this is like, yeah, I'm hoping, you crack the ceiling. You're from South Africa. I love your accent. Oh, they're one of my favorites. South African's one of my favorite accents.
I'm so glad. It's sort of a mixture of our own thing, and we've got a bit of a British thing going on as well. So
Yeah.
even when we write sort of British English rather than US English sometimes. But so it's a whole little mixture of different, accents and languages. And so we're just this little melting pot of all sorts of cultural influences, basically.
I know, I love it. And I have to tell you, you guys, if you haven't checked out, so Milani's done a couple of remote viewing videos for thirdeyechampagne.com, and you're getting a lot of compliments. People are emailing me saying, "Oh my God, who is she? What's going on?" Like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Awesome.
Yeah, so if you guys haven't checked them out, you should absolutely check them out. You can just go type in her first name in the search bar, and all of the content will come up for you. So let's talk about.
I will make a few more.
Yes,
I saw
please.
somebody ask for Oak Island, so I'll definitely be doing an Oak Island one, and I'll see sort of what else comes up. But so if you have something that you want me to look at, you're welcome to just comment it somewhere, and hopefully I'll pick it up and I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, that would be amazing. So I want to talk about, I think you're so talented, but I want to know, how did you get started in this, I guess, business? I guess we can call it a business in the first place. Like, what was the path to becoming the soul journey coach?
Okay. I had quite a normal upbringing in of childhood. Grew up in a religious environment. Sometimes the South African environment, in terms of culturally, religiously, you go to church every Sunday, and there's not a lot of woo-woo stuff. I grew up in a very small town in the middle of the country, basically, very flat, lots of grass. Almost maybe like, I think you would have Kansas, or some of those places that are sort of in the middle somewhere. So that's where I grew up. I didn't really see myself as psychic, although there were two sort of indications of that in my early life that I'll maybe get to. But so I basically went and I studied, and I became a journalist, and then I became a real estate agent. And so I did all sorts of different things, but this sort of other spiritual stuff kept calling me, and I, kept developing it and so on. Then I discovered the Akashic Records, and I sort of read that, started to read it for myself. The first time I heard about it was at a holistic networking meeting that I was going to, and they gave the program for the rest of the year. And one of the speakers later in the year was going to be talking about the Akashic Records, and all my alarm bells just started going off, and I realized that I had to go and figure out what this was about, because there was just something about it calling to my soul. So I found some books about it, and I started reading, and I started opening my own records and so on. And eventually that led to me becoming almost like a spare time, hobby, not really hobby, but, on a sideline, reading the Akashic Records for clients, because eventually my guides was like, no, you don't just keep this for yourself. It's too useful and powerful. So you have to actually use this in order to help people. So that's sort of how I got into the Akashic Records. The soul path stuff that we might discuss later came later. That's sort of a recent thing. And the remote viewing, that's actually a funny story. It was a result of an argument I had with my guides. I have a strong connection to earth energies, and they were giving me lots of guidance at one stage in terms of sort of places on earth that I have to visit, and I have to work with the energy there. And they were getting really insistent about it. And whenever they sort of was going on about this, I would say, well, that's fine. If I need to go on this world tour of, sacred sites and special places and whatever, that's fine. Just pop in the, winning lottery numbers, and I'm there like a bear, I'll go, which didn't happen. And so then they would come again and say, you have to go and visit, and you have to work with this site. And eventually it started reaching almost a crescendo in terms of they were really coming down on me. And at that stage, we were in lockdown, so nobody in the world was traveling anywhere. And I was just like, what about this do you not understand? What is it that you are not getting about what's going on in the world? And then one day, shortly after this, I was working with some of my card decks. So I read tarot cards and oracle cards and so on, but for myself, basically, to get guidance and, alignment and whatever. And I was working with this oracle deck, which is the Earth Power Oracle, basically by Stacey DeMarco. And I was reading in the guidebook, and they have these beautiful cards. Let me show you some. Okay, so it's all about different places on the earth. So this is like the Cathedral of Notre Dame, or Delphi, or Death Valley, or Machu Picchu, all these different places that have special energy. And in the guidebook, she actually gave a method of connecting to the places, or the energy of these places, by using the GPS coordinates. And because I just had this argument with my guides, it's just the penny sort of dropped. And I realized, oh, okay, I understand now. It's not you that weren't understanding, what was happening in the world. It's me actually not understanding. So I'm sorry, I'll go and do that right away. And so I started connecting with these different places and the energies of them, and sort of almost going into a meditative state, and anchoring my energy into that place as if I'm actually there. And then working with the energy. I did a few meditations about, helping people to access that stuff. Mount Sinai was one that was quite a beautiful energy to work with, and so on. So some of those are inside timer. And so working specifically with sacred power places and the energy to help us to, heal or connect or align or evolve or raise our consciousness or whatever. And so I almost learned how to do it, not by mistake, but it took a hell of a long time for me to actually understand what my guides were going on about when they were sort of giving me this guidance that I needed to do this. And so it's sort of a thing that I don't do for clients necessarily, but it is something that I do just in terms of my own journey with this, and we'll see how it develops. I think there's still more to come, regarding specifically working with some of these very special energies in some of these places.
I just got a little psychic hit as you were talking, actually, and I'm like, oh, she's going to be doing so much more of this. Like, you're going to be going down that road big time, super big time. That's
Oh,
very,
I got goosebumps.
yeah, you're going to be going down that road for sure, for sure. So, coming out of this sort of like religious situation, all of a sudden you're getting these abilities. Did it freak you out? I mean, were you just like, oh no, I can't do that?
So there's two interesting stories, psychic stuff that happened to me. Um, and so I grew up quite religious, and then I went to university. And when I was sort of in my second, third year of university, there were a few traumatic things that happened. One was there was sort of a relationship that, broke up. That wasn't the biggest thing. But my parents also split up. They were getting a divorce. And I also sort of lost a friend that was killed during a sort of violent attack. And so that really messed me up. And basically, at that point in my life, I basically told God, well, if that's how you want to play, then you can fuck right off. I don't want anything to do with you. And so I sort of lost my faith a bit. And I spent a lot of the years after that very disconnected from, you know, basically almost spirituality, from my own emotions, a lot of stuff. It really messed me up. And so part of my journey was finding my way back from that, and starting to heal some of this stuff that was going on with me. But as a result of this divorce that my parents were going through, I had my first real psychic hit that I um, experienced in my life, that I know for a fact that was it. And that, I can't even argue about it. It wasn't me. That was really just, almost divine intervention. Because at one stage during this process of the divorce, my mom actually tried to commit suicide.
Mhm.
And I was at home sitting and I was watching a movie. I was actually Speed 2, not the one with Keanu Reeves, the other one.
Yeah, on the boat.
And
Yeah.
yes, on the boat. I actually didn't get to finish it, but so I was sitting alone at home watching this movie, and I started getting this very bad feeling. Really was, it was dreadful. And I sort of tried to watch the movie and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And eventually I turned the movie off and I just stood there and I sort of said, what's going on? Because it almost like nauseous on my, that I'm almost sick to my stomach. And I got this picture in my mind, clear as a bell. And it was a picture of a gun. And I immediately sort of almost understood what they meant. And so I went to we had a handgun or two in the house, that was in, what do you call it, in a safe. And so I went to the safe and I looked, and the gun wasn't there. My mom had taken it with her when she'd left. And so I called my dad and they called the family doctor, and they went and looked for her, and they actually found her in the cemetery where she was writing suicide notes.
Oh,
So if it wasn't for that, life would have been quite different, I think. So I'm always very grateful for that. But that was sort of the first very weird experience that I had in terms of just getting that message. And at that time, I wasn't even very connected. So if I think back on it now, I think, my guides were standing there shouting at me, and I was just ignoring them, and they had to, almost try and make me sick in order to get my attention, that there was something going on that I needed, there was a message coming in because I wasn't listening. But anyway, so that was the first one. And then I spent a lot of years healing. My mom's okay. We're good. You know, um, the other funny thing that happened was sort of December 2013. I wasn't doing any psychic work at all. And I was sitting again, watching television at home, just relaxing. And then our former president, Nelson Mandela, that I think you might have, most people in the world have heard of him, was quite sick, in the weeks before. And there hadn't been anything on the news, like recently, that would have drawn my attention to him, or, specific
right.
thing that happened. But suddenly, I'm just so focused on him. And it's like, there's something going on with him. There's something, I'm getting this almost download. It's just happening. There's something there. And I'm checking and trying to see, is there anything recent, on the news sites, what is happening? But it's just this. And then as I'm sitting there, so hyper focused on him, it's suddenly almost as if a light had gone out in the world somewhere. And I burst into tears. And I sort of knew at that moment that he died. And I checked and I checked and I couldn't find any confirmation of that until hours later when they actually did a press release. And the time that I felt it was the time that he died. So at that stage, I wasn't even working as a psychic. And it was just this random thing that was happening. But then I sort of started realizing, okay, maybe something is going on here. You had the first, very strong, very traumatic incident, but that was sort of a personal member of your family, so you can explain it. But in this, I had no direct link to it. It's just something that I knew, and I knew it so strongly. There's no, coming back from that or sort of doubting it. It happened. I knew it. I felt it at the moment. It touched me, emotionally. I could feel the energy of it. And so that sort of got me on the path where I started to maybe develop this a little bit more and started trusting it a little bit more. I think my parents still think what I do is slightly weird. I've stopped trying to, explain it too much to people, or, part of my journey has really been to sort of step into who I actually am, and to own the gift of it, and the difference that I can make for people with this. And if other people, due to their own belief systems or, programming or whatever, don't resonate with it or don't believe, that it's real, then that's fine with me. I work with clients who are actually aligned with this and that this can actually help. And I need to sort of step up in terms of my own soul destiny, in terms of the soul path, which is to almost be this bridge between the two realms, spirit and physical. And that's my role. That's part of who I am. And I needed to own it. And I think I've come quite far in terms of doing that, from little, Free State, small town girl going to church and sort of being afraid of what everybody would think of what she's doing and who she is.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Wow. I'm glad that everything worked out with your mom. That's scary as hell. I mean,
It is.
yeah. So when you
The scariest thing is if I hadn't listened.
right,
Because, the guilt that I would feel, I think, and have to live with for the rest of my life for not listening to that message would have been very hard to overcome, I think.
absolutely. It reminds me, so we just did a drunk tarot on Marilyn Monroe, and I'm reading these books. I'm doing, a lot of research to do, the whole history, because, in front of the video, and all these people were saying, especially Peter Lawford, who never got over it, he was trying to get people to drive over to her house that night that she died, saying something's
Okay.
wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong. And everybody's like, no, Peter, shut up, you're drunk, go to bed. And he never, I mean, he regretted it for the rest of his life, and that's
Yes.
all,
That's a heavy.
yeah, I could have saved their life and I didn't, so I get what you're saying.
Yes.
It's really profound. And I think, wow, that thing about, and the thing with Nelson Mandela is, like, he was such a big deal. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I'm not surprised that, it popped up on your radar, because he had, I gotta do a reading on him. I've done little ones, but I need to do like a whole big one. But he had such an intense journey, and
Yes.
was a real um almost like a Christ figure. I mean, there was a whole,
Mm.
what I mean? Like, so I'm not surprised
Yes.
that you picked up on it, you know, because that's huge. I mean, that's especially because that's where you live, you know. I mean, to us in the US,
Yes.
like, you know, yeah, it's Nelson Mandela and he's amazing and he lives over there. But that was your guy,
Mm,
you know.
yes,
Oh my God,
that's true.
it's just amazing. So when you see when you have these, you know, is it typically because when you were reading for me, you had a lot of, you know, you were seeing things like kind of visions. Is that usually how
Yes.
it happens?
Most of my stuff is visual, so I get pictures, and I think I've always been a visual communicator, visual learner, so that's almost the strongest one. I have had instances where I've sort of asked while I'm in a past life, I ask, okay, where am I or something, and I get the information almost like I hear the sound. I'm not as good with that as I am with the pictures. The
Mhm.
pictures is stronger. The sound is sort of maybe secondary, and then I would say the feeling, you know, where you almost feel it in your body, that's also there, but it's also not as strong as the pictures. The pictures are really, really clear for me.
Yeah.
Some of the pictures that I see in terms of when I do a reading for somebody, those pictures are so crystal clear that I still remember them, you know, years afterwards, because it's like it's really there. I'm almost seeing it. Sometimes, you know, it's just a still picture. Sometimes it moves. It's like a little movie almost playing out. And sometimes it's just the emotions of it, you know, that's coming through the strongest. And I can't really even see the story. I can just feel the emotion of it. But the pictures for me is the sort of main thing, I think, the, you know, sense in terms of getting information.
It was very interesting for me to get the reading from you because I've never been to a psychic that sees in pictures like that. So when you're doing it,
Okay.
you're going, oh, I'm seeing this and I'm seeing this and I'm seeing this. It was the way that you described them. It was like you were watching a movie or you were like flipping through like a photo album. You know what I mean? It was that
Mm.
clear for you, and it was that clear for me as the client as well. I mean, it was really, that was a cool thing because I'd never really seen anybody work like that before.
I love working with intuitive clients because I often have clients that tell me that they can actually see the same thing that I see. It's
Mhm.
like it almost, I don't know, it allows them to tap into the picture or into the vision or into the energy in some way if they are open intuitively. And so I have really had clients that are intuitive. I had one this week that said, you know, as you were drawing that picture of me doing this, I actually got it. I can see myself. I can feel my body position. I can see the picture of myself actually doing that.
Wow. That's amazing. That's wild. That's just, you know, I would you say that because you're so visual, it's easier for you to do the remote viewing?
Yes, I think it might be. It might also be that I'm quite sensitive to energy anyway. You know, like I think that was one of the hardest things for me growing up is I sort of felt a lot of people's emotions and then were affected by it. And so it took me a lot of years to learn how to shield myself and not be overly affected by, you know, the energies around me, but even energies of places. So I am sensitive in that way. And when I am doing remote viewing, I often, so it's almost combining the two, where I'm feeling the energy in my body and, you know, emotions and that sort of thing. But then I'm also getting the pictures.
Mm,
So it's the two sort of combine, I think, very nicely with when I do the remote viewing.
amazing. And so with the remote viewing, you're basically only doing it with the sacred sites right now. I mean, you're not going to say, you know, client XYZ, yes, I can see your house. Like you're not doing that kind of stuff.
I don't know if it has I'm not doing it for clients at the moment, and I don't know if it really has a client
Right.
application.
Yeah.
Maybe it might eventually in the future. I don't know. But so for now, I'm doing it basically working with the sacred sites. And then I did a few fun ones just to, you know, for Third Eye Champagne to see what I would see. Almost as an experiment to see, okay, will this work even? And sort of when it worked, that's when I sort of said, okay, I'll send you the videos and
Yeah, that was amazing.
see if you're interested in them.
No, they're
But that
very
was the first time I'd that was the first time I'd actually sort of tried that on camera, you know, tuning into a site and just seeing, you know, what I get. It's fun.
It was amazing.
Less
They're
heavy.
good readings. So let's talk Akashic Records. So you guys, there is now
Yes.
Milani did a video for you guys. So I will link it here if you want to pause and go watch it about, you know, what they are, what they do. But can you just give us, I mean, I don't know if you can give us just like a little kind of, this is what they are really quickly for people that don't know.
Okay. Akasha is the Sanskrit word. It means primary substance. And it is almost like the Akashic Records is then the energetic imprint of everything that's ever been, was, or so every thought, every emotion, every action, every decision that we make is almost like an imprint on clay, if it's a very soft clay, and it makes an imprint on that. And so the Akashic Records is like almost like a living, breathing record of all of the actions, thoughts, emotions of all the souls that's ever been there. So it's so vast that we can't really tap into all of it or understand or read all of it. So what we do is we open your Akashic Records, and basically your guides and my guides get together and they give us almost like a little book report. So if it's you, if your current life is like starting a book, very thick, intricate, complex book on chapter 33, and you can't understand why some of the characters are acting in certain ways, or why some stuff triggers you, or why this sort of pattern keeps reappearing, or your own motivations and stuff, why, you know, you're struggling with certain things, like you're afraid of the dark, or you know, whatever it might be. So what we get is basically almost like a book report from your guides that tells us, oh, this is where it comes from, this is the background to that, this is the context to that. And so the primary thing that we get from there is almost guidance and clarity in terms of the context, more information about your soul journey with other people, with yourself, you know, with your own struggles and patterns and things that are important to you. And so, but there's also healing that happens because the records have such a high vibration. So there's a healing that happens either whether we do actual energy healing work when the records are open, or whether it's just, you know, we sit there with the records open and we don't even talk beyond the information that you get that is healing in a way to your journey. There's a healing vibration of the records as well. So we use it for healing. But mostly the way I work, other Akashic Records readers work differently. To me, I've only found one or two, I think, in the world that works the way that I do, or in a similar way. So I want to almost go in like a surgeon and go and look and see where are the energy blocks? What is keeping you from living your highest potential? Where does that come from? What made that thing appear? And then it's almost like sometimes these patterns have their origin in your past lives. And so you can't in this life sort of solve it. You have to almost go back to where it started. And then you erase that pattern in all of your lives, because basically a past life is not a past life. It's a concurrent life. All of time, everything is sort of meshed together and it's all happening right now. So if you had a past life as a witch and you were tortured for speaking your truth or for doing healing work, that's actually a common one, then basically it's like for part of your soul that is happening right now. So it's not like, oh, maybe that happened a long time ago and now I should just get over it. Part of your soul is actually going through that right now, and you're very connected to that energy still, especially if this life is working with some of those traumas or wounds or energies, and you're here to specifically transmute it or to overcome it, or to have a redo, you know, to make a different choice and see how that plays out. All of that sort of stuff is stuff that we go into when we sort of look into what is happening for you and why you have certain health issues or patterns or difficult relationships, or, you know, just psychological struggles, emotional triggers, all sorts of things that we can actually look at and investigate.
I have to tell you guys, so when I did my reading with Milani, it was really interesting because I think we were talking about bad luck with men. I think that was the subject. I was like, why? But you saw basically this life. You were like, okay, this is where it started. And so she sees this life where basically I was very beautiful. Thank you. But I was like a
Still are.
thank you. But I was like a servant, and it was a castle kind of, and the guy, one of, not the guy, but
Oh, I remember now.
one of the high up guys was like, bring her to my room basically, and I kind of had to because he was rich and I was poor, and da 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 da. And long story short, he didn't treat me very well. There was a child that came out of the union that I loved the kid, but I like leapt out a window. I think I jumped out a window. But it was like I can't.
I can't remember. As you're talking, it's coming back to me, but because it's not my stuff, I forget it sort of,
Yeah.
once we're done. So
Yeah.
now that you're mentioning it, I remember that. But if you had asked me now, okay, just tell me, where did that come from? I wouldn't be able to
Right.
even tell you.
Yeah, I'm the same way with readings. People go, no, that time you read for me, and I'm like, nope, I got nothing for you. So sorry. Every once
Sorry.
in a while, something will stick.
Sorry.
But for the most part, no. But it was really interesting because the way that she was describing it was so vivid. And since I am intuitive, I don't know if I was seeing it really vividly because of that or whatever, but I tell you, the way that you put it down, it was just like, oh, I could see it. I could see it. The funny thing is, in my mind, I didn't say this during the reading, but this is the weirdest thing. I could see that. I was like, man, I was a good dresser. Like, I could see the outfits as you're talking about. And it's this horrible thing. She's describing, and he's basically forcing you. And, it's this whole deal. And you have this kid and you don't want to leave the kid and you feel really guilty, but you got to go because the situation is so bad. And I'm going, yeah, but when I leapt to my death, I was in the cutest dress. I mean, I could see it. It was the weirdest thing. That was one of the craziest things. It was just the most bizarre thing. But honestly, the way that you were laying everything down coming out of the Akashic Records, it was so vivid, it was so detailed, and it was so intricate. And it made such a connection for me. I'm going, oh yeah, that makes sense. There was never one thing that came out of her mouth that I was going, sometimes you do reading, and for me, sometimes the client's like, but for me, every single thing that you were saying was just like, yep, 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 yep. And I've never had such a detailed reading before. I think that sometimes psychic stuff is so nebulous. Even for me, sometimes I'll read for somebody and I'll say, okay, it's this, and I can get a good amount of information, but then I'm like, I can't, there's no more information here for you. I can't give you any more. And there are reasons for that. A lot of times there are universal reasons that I don't know about, but with the Akashic Records, it was just, you were just like, bam, 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 so intricate, so detailed, so vivid. It was really amazing. And I think that, it's weird because that, out of everything you said, that particular situation stuck with me. And it's been following me around since we did that reading. It's just like there's something about it that's following me around and following me around, and I don't know why. I don't have any particular feelings about it, but it follows me around. I'm kind of like, okay, that's okay. It's like in the back of my mind. So I think what's really interesting when you do these readings is that it may seem like, oh yeah, like you're saying, oh, that happened a long time ago and that was a past life, but I'm telling you, this lady, this woman, she follows me around now. I mean, it's there, it's very present.
It opened up. Look, before you only had sort of the subconscious energy that was present in your life, and then we did the reading, and now it's like a conscious thing. So whenever that energy pops up, you now have something to connect it to almost, understand it better or have a context for that, which you didn't have before. And you were connected to that life anyway. So all that we've done is we've actually just allowed you to be mindful or aware of what is actually there. So we just sort of shone a light on that connection and that thing that's happening there. So now it's not subconscious anymore. It's more of a conscious thing. And if she's in your, okay, so basically the fact that it's so connected, all of the past lives and stuff, means that if you start healing or working with some of that energy, or problematic stuff around that, then you're healing it for yourself and you're healing it for her as well. And that's the beautiful thing about the Akashic Records, is that we can affect almost all of our lives through the energy work and the awareness that we have now, the tools that we have these days. And I think we're in such a privileged position to be able to do that and to go back. I know some of my clients are working on stuff that they're working on stuff for their whole families. They've got like ancestral karma, slavery stuff that's often quite dark. That's sort of the darkest familial ancestral karma that I found in the records. And there's some of them that's come here, they've almost taken it up into their own energetic being in order to heal it, but for the entire line going back and forwards. So they're sort of the center point of healing for a whole bunch of other people. And I even find it in my own life where as I heal, I sort of heal stuff for my family, or I heal stuff in my ancestral lines. And so I think that's the case for a lot of people. But so in terms of that, all I really meant to say before I went on this whole ramble is that as you heal stuff in your life around this, it will also heal it for her.
I want to say, I have to tell you, I have had a lot of changes. They're sort of subtle since my reading with you. Because I'm working with Debbie, but we're not specifically working on the bad luck with men. We're working on a lot of still kind of, healing from the hospital and all that kind of stuff. But I've had very interesting changes since we did that reading. And one of the big things, and this is really weird. I mean, it's weird and it's sort of out of nowhere. I have never, how do I put it? I've always been like a little bee. And in my romantic life, I'm just going to share some tea. But I've always been like, oh, that's a pretty flower. Let's go over there. Oh, that's a pretty flower. Let's go over there. So I've just never really had a conscious thought of like, this is what I want. This is who I want. And this is crazy, but out of nowhere, I mean, literally all of a sudden, these thoughts completely clear. I mean, absolute clarity. This is what he looks like. This is what, he's going to act like. This is what the relationship should be like. This is like, it's coming out of nowhere. It's not, I'm thinking about it. I don't care. I'm not interested in relationships right now. I almost died. I'm not trying to, run out and get laid, unfortunately, but, it's really strange.
Everybody should. It's actually good. It's good for your energy.
But I'm not thinking about it at all. It's not in my mind. It was kind of, when we were doing the reading, I thought, well, that's kind of a weird, I've had this bad luck and it's a weird pattern. So let's look at it. But it was never, because you get a lot of clients, it's like love, 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 love. Where is he? Where is she? Where are they?
When's he coming?
Right. I'm not that client. So the fact that this stuff is coming through of like, this is what he looks like. This is what he acts like. This is what the relationship is. They're coming out of nowhere. And I know it's a direct result from working with you.
So what I think was happening is previously the pattern was that there was a disruption in terms of that. And now maybe the disruption is less. And so this sort of stuff is starting to almost crystallize and come through now. So I'm so glad. Yep. That's awesome.
Yep.
So happy to hear that.
Absolute clarity. And it's not like I've been thinking about it. That's the thing.
No, it's not like you're doing it. No. It's just starting to align. That's all that it is.
Yep. Absolutely.
I love it.
Yes, absolutely. So and what's also interesting is you really are connected to the earth. You're one of the most grounded psychics I've ever encountered, to be quite frank. I usually it's kind of like, woo, we're all floating on the ceiling like it's Mary Poppins, but you really are. You have such a dramatic, grounded earth connection. It's very interesting for me to encounter.
You know what? I wasn't always like that. For a large part of my life, I was actually almost working just with the upper, I don't know, connecting to the upper stuff was more easy, in terms of just floating away and being all ungrounded and whatever. And then I had a few things. My guides were like, okay, you need to get a tattoo. And I'm not a tattoo girl. I'm not I've never really thought that that was something that I would do or wanted or anything. And my guides were like, okay, you're getting a tattoo. And I'm like, no. And then they eventually, I can't remember, but they sort of started getting my attention in various ways. And I knew eventually all of this bad stuff that's happening right now with my arm and my wrist and my hand and my bloody engagement ring, and my watch, breaking, and all of that stuff is because I'm resisting getting the tattoo. And the tattoo was this dragon tattoo, and the intention of that was to ground my energy. So there's the tattoo had an effect in terms of grounding me into earth energy. And so the channel is much clearer when you're actually grounded, as well as sort of being able. So even before I start reading records, I connect upwards, which is easy. I connect downwards and ground myself, and then I connect my heart to yours. And so we have this sort of three-way energy going on while we are within the records and working with it always. So that's the first thing I do. You'll see I'll take as before I start a reading, and that is what I'm doing. I'm protecting my energy, and I'm grounding, I'm going up, and I'm connecting heart to heart.
I love that. Let's talk soul path. Let's talk soul path. Tell me what is this? Let us know exactly what we're doing here. It's like my favorite thing that you do.
Soul path is a new thing that I do. I've only started offering it to clients in January. Basically, it's my guides again. But the story started a few years ago. So probably 2019, thereabouts, I was working with a Jewish client in Florida. And we had quite a few sessions, but not all of it was sort of about his Akashic Records. So we would open the Akashic Records, but we would almost then use it to start exploring a lot of metaphysical and other stuff. So, for instance, we actually connect to like the energy of Moses or King Solomon, or different places, or looking at the Ark of the Covenant, or all sorts of weird and wonderful things that this client wanted to know about. And as a part of that, sort of those quite intensive sessions that we did at that time, there was information that was coming through that there's something very special about the Hebrew alphabet specifically, in terms of whether it's carrying codes or whether it's carrying specific energies or something. It's different than the English alphabet. So I'm not Jewish, I don't speak Hebrew, and so that stuff years passed. And then last year, my guides started getting on my case and wanted me to learn Hebrew. And I was like, but why? Because there's no reason. I do learn languages quite easily, and I like doing it, but why? But eventually we've made a deal quite a few years ago, and I said, okay, I'll try to follow your guidance, even if I don't understand what it's about, it's fine. And so there was stuff like learning Hebrew and sacred geometry, and there's specific books that sort of started pinging, like the Sefer Yetzirah, which is this mystic Jewish text, and the Zohar, and so on, and which is some of the fundamental texts of the Kabbalah, which is this sort of Jewish mysticism. Anyway, so I started doing like Duolingo, Hebrew, 5 or 10 minutes every morning, and just learning how to read Hebrew. And that's quite a difficult task already, because they write from the other side. And to make matters worse, it's all different letters, and they don't use the vowels. In modern Hebrew, when they don't write the vowels. So if it would be the equivalent of us writing kettle, and we're only writing the K and the T and the L. And then because everybody sort of knows that would be kettle, but it could be kottle, or, you know, it could be an O or an A or a U or a Y or whatever. So if you don't know the word, then it's actually quite hard to learn how to read Hebrew. But anyway, long story short, I started learning Hebrew. I can actually read Hebrew now, although I don't have a massive vocabulary. And working with sacred geometry, reading books about it, and sort of just going on this journey. Had a few more encounters with Moses, which is also different, you know, interesting stuff for another day. And then eventually I saw this TikTok that popped onto my feed, you know, the For You feed on TikTok, just sort of randomly. There was this girl that was explaining this alternative method to read the Akashic Records, and it uses the Hebrew alphabet. And I was like, oh my God, you know what? Okay, I understand. And so I started looking at this method, and basically why I'm bringing Moses into it is when Moses brought the sort of, what is it, the 10 Commandments or whatever down from Mount Sinai, there was some information as well that he got. And so based on that, the Hebrew language has what they call gematria, which is the numerology that's associated with the specific Hebrew letters. And each of these Hebrew letters, there's 22 of them, represent a specific creation energy. And so what the soul path method is we're looking at the vibration of your name that your parents gave to you when you were born, almost as if they were channeling your soul vibration in a way. We're translating that to the phonetic Hebrew, then translating that to the numerology of Moses, and then spinning it around the Star of David, which is the two triangles, sort of worldly and spiritually. And then basically within each of those positions, you have specific Hebrew letters, or then the numerology, the numbers of those letters. And so you could have that in a position of a spiritual talent or a worldly challenge or a soul destiny, etc. And so basically when we're looking at your soul path, we're looking at the energy strands that you as a soul came and braided together into your energy being in this life. And so what are those challenges? What are those goals that you had, etc.? And how are you aligning with them? How are you transmuting some of the more negative aspects of a specific energy into the more positive? Where are you along this journey? And, you know, it sounds very like, okay, but how could my name and Hebrew, it all sounds very sort of outlandish. I'm aware, and I went through the same process, you know, when I first sort of realized this, but I also knew my guides wouldn't be steering me wrong. And this had been a sort of 6-month journey up to that point. And so I sort of learned and did my own chart, and it blew my mind in terms of how accurate it was and how much understanding I suddenly got in terms of my own journey and my own destiny, and why I was here and what I was supposed to be doing. And even, you know, some of the energetic challenges that I had and why that was there. And so, you know, it almost helps you not to feel as bad about some of these things that you keep doing almost wrong, or that you keep struggling with, because you realize then that that's just the one side of a specific energy that you're here to work with and that you're sort of engaging with. So I've started offering it to clients, and I have yet to find a client that doesn't look at me with wide eyes when we start going through their chart and saying to me, or you know, or not saying to me, it's like looking in a mirror. Yes, everything you've said, I resonate with in terms of this energy. Yes, this is correct. This is so accurate. You know, it's mind-blowing stuff just in terms of what the understanding that it gives you.
Oh yeah.
The overview it gives you of your own. So that is what soul path is.
Yeah, I have to say, it was incredibly profound. And everything that you're, when you go through it, and I'm going, oh, yep, that's a yes, that's a yes, that's a yes, that's a yes. But what I love about it too is it kind of says, okay, here's the roadmap. Like here's how you can navigate things. And if you
Navigate.
get stuck over here, this is why, and this is how you get out of it. I mean, it's very it's helpful on many, many levels, because you're talking about especially like kind of the spiritual challenges and this is what's going on here, but here's how you fix it, here's how you get over it, here's how you complete it, whatever it is. It's like,
Yes.
here's the situation, here's the solution, here's the situation, here's the solution, and it's very layered.
What I like most about it is, so you almost have top layer, and that is, okay, this is the energy, this is sort of where you're stuck, this is what you can do about it. But if you go one layer deeper, for me, it almost starts giving me a map of your energetic body. So I can start seeing, you have a challenge with this, or you have that, and here's what you need to work with in terms of, if you start moving your body's energy around and focusing on that sort of thing, here's what you need to do. You have this energy, so you need to go and get a lot of sunshine. That is how you almost recharge your energy. So you have the 4, that means you need to go. You have the 10. Okay, but so what happens is, whenever you start complaining or criticizing yourself or other people, you're basically disconnecting from your energy. So stop doing that. You have the 10. Or you have the 9, sorry, but you have to go to the gym. Your body needs to be strong in order to handle this lightning bolt of stuff that's coming into your body every day. Otherwise, it's going to start creating physical havoc with you. Or, okay, you are a 5 like I am. You have to ground your energy. Otherwise, it's never going to make any impact on the world unless you start grounding your energy consciously, whatever, spiritually, intentionally. And so it almost gives us like a recipe for working with our own energy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing I think I love the most about it.
Yeah, it sets you up for success, and so many people are sort of wandering around kind of going, I don't know where to go, I don't know what to do, I don't understand why the universe is putting these blocks up, or I don't understand why I'm not succeeding over here or over there. And this is just like, here you go. It's really interesting.
That's the map. This is your energy. This is where you need to move the needle. So just focus on moving that needle every day, and you'll start seeing results.
Yeah.
And that's sort of why I developed the abundance key, which is sort of an outflow of the soul path work. It's like almost a summary of everything that you need to do, your next action steps, and the stuff that you need to focus on. Almost like, we're developing your key, and some of the stuff needs to be adjusted slightly. So here's your adjustments, go and do that, and then that will start unlocking inner and outer abundance for you. So it's almost like a little recipe of, okay, you need to do this, 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 remember this, and then catch yourself when you're starting to do this.
Yeah.
And it's practical. I love it. I actually really enjoy.
Yep. So many practical applications. And what's really interesting to me, and I made this connection afterward, and that's the thing with these readings. So I did all of them, right? So I did Akashic and Soul Path. We just went bam bam back to back.
Yes.
But what was interesting to me is that the Soul Path reading resonated with the Akashic Records, because what we talked about with my abundance key, and I've been online, I've been in the videos bitching about business isn't great, and what's da 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 da, and please God help me, and all this and that. But what's really interesting is you came along and said you have no masculine energy going on, it's all feminine, and the business, the career specifically, needs this masculine structure. Like, you have all the feminine. It's true. My favorite thing to do is create, which is the feminine. But the masculine,
yes.
Well, the masculine pushes it out. The masculine is like, and here you go, that's the magician in the tarot, but
yes,
there's no structure. So I have nothing in place, like the emperor in the tarot. I have nothing in place to like hold up everything that I'm creating. So that's the abundance key, the soul path work that pointed that out. What's really interesting to me is that it sort of meshes with what you saw in the Akashic Records, which is I'm basically, walking around with this lifetime where, men were not good to me. They didn't treat me well. So I'm
Mm,
pulling away from the masculine energy in all these areas because of this, lifetime where I was basically, I don't know, sex slave more or less. I mean, that's kind of the deal. But it was really
mm.
interesting to me afterward how it sort of, I was kind of like, well, yeah, of course I'm not leaning into that masculine energy because, I'm running away from it.
It's painful, yes, it's dangerous to you
Yeah.
because in that form it is unbalanced, it's misaligned, um, distorted masculine energy basically. And so what you need in your business is, you know, the balanced good masculine energy, divine masculine almost in a way. Um, and that's what's lacking. So focus on that, and
Mhm.
then the more you can integrate the two, the more things will start happening and
Yeah.
flowing better, because
Well,
now there's a container that
exactly.
catches the, yes,
Exactly. What I didn't understand, another really amazing thing that kind of came out of that reading with you, as far as the masculine stuff goes, for probably, Jesus, I don't know, the first 35 years of my life, I was always told I was too masculine. Believe it or not, and looking at me, I don't look masculine at all, but I was always told you were too masculine. I have masculine traits. I'm abrasive. You have a woman that speaks her mind, or
mm,
a little girl that speaks her mind, and they're going, nope,
yes,
don't do that. I remember,
not good. Mm-mm.
yeah, yeah, I remember being in a. This is crazy, but I was in a bar in a hotel, and I was maybe barely 21 because that's our drinking age over here. But it was um it was a hotel that was right near all the basketball players, like all the NBA players stayed there because it was right near the stadium.
Okay.
But we were in there and some guy was in there watching a game, and I was just being my normal self, and he was an older guy, and he came over and he said, "You need to learn to be quiet." And I was like, "What?" And he goes, young ladies shouldn't act like you. You shouldn't act this way. You need to learn to be quiet. You are too loud. And I remember I mean, it's crystallized in my mind because I was always,
Yes.
me, you need to be quiet. You're too loud. You're too masculine. You're too much like a guy. You act too much like a guy.
Mm.
Guys
Too
dumped
much.
because I was too much like a guy. So I basically went from, having the masculine energy to like, okay, I'll just go over here and do some of this,
That's not being appreciated. That's not being, well received. So let me turn that down now.
Yep, yep. And that actually really, I thought about after that reading with you, I thought about that guy. And it's funny because my response to him was, "You're being very rude and now you have to buy me a drink." And he looked at me and I said, "You know what? In fact, you're going to buy the whole table a drink." And he did. He actually did. He went, "Oh my, I don't know what happened, but he went, you're right." And he bought us all drinks. But I thought about that after that reading with you. I was just like, oh my God. So it that popped up because it's like, wait, you've been told this your whole life. So subconsciously I said, okay, masculine stuff, you're dangerous and I'm not supposed to be
Yes.
like you. So you go over here. So it's interesting because the insights, it was like protracted over a period because I mean, it's been a couple weeks since we talked. So, the last like two and a
Yes.
half weeks, it's just been like these little things just popping out. So you get profound change from this, is my whole point. Like and I haven't even worked the abundance keys yet. I haven't even worked it. I haven't even like really delved into that. It was just kind of, so I'm just getting all these, subtle, well, conscious now, but insights coming out of that reading. So it's really amazing.
Mm. I'm I'm so glad that it happened that way for you. It does happen for a lot of clients, and I actually often tell them at the end of the reading, just be aware that we've opened it now, you've gained new understanding, and your guides will continue working with you and dropping these little nuggets into this almost well-prepared pool of consciousness now that will, so it's a continuous process, and just be open to it. Don't just dismiss it. Just know that there will be stuff, new understandings, new aha. Oh, is that what that was? Oh, maybe that's connect. Oh gosh, that often happens. It's like we have the intense session within the records for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then afterwards there's almost a follow-up, that slow drip
Yeah.
follow-up that happens from your guides into this sort of, it's like you've plowed the field and now it's ready for these seeds to be planted so that new stuff can start growing. So that describes it quite well, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And my intention is, when you sent me all my stuff, because you get a recording, you get all the goodies. So I was like, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna rewatch this, and I'm gonna start really applying these things to my life, but I haven't gotten there yet. So the fact that I haven't even gotten there yet, and I already have, things happening, it's pretty amazing. It's unlike any reading I've ever really honestly ever had. And it's unlike anything that I personally have given to clients. I think just from my own perspective, I usually help clients work with some kind of micro, some kind of micro issue. Hey, I need help with the job stuff. I need help with the marriage or whatever it is.
Okay.
You are really working with like these very big overarching concepts. I mean, you're macro, like you're working with really big stuff.
Yes, I think so. And that's why I sort of call myself a soul journey coach, rather than, because it's about almost going to and seeing the whole journey more in perspective and seeing what are the themes. And I think there's value in this, in looking at the small stuff and also, looking at the big picture and figuring out sort of, oh, but there's stuff that I can't, that if I work it only on the macro or in the micro, then I don't see the pattern. I don't sort of see the bigger sort of thing that's happening here. And so I think there's value in both. But yeah, so I work more on the macro level, definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely and again, I've really never seen anybody do what you do. I've never seen it. And it is such an honor that I got to experience it. I mean, I think it was just so amazing. And the funny thing is, so what's funny is you had offered this, I don't even remember, but it was a while ago. You said, hey, you want it, da 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 da. And it was like, I'm way busy and my life's falling apart, and and then I'm in the hospital dying. And it was like all this stuff. And you offered it again, pretty randomly just a little while ago. And something at that point, it was like, yeah, okay, let's do it. Because you know what, when you almost die, you end up with a lot of free time on your hands afterwards.
Yes. It does change the priorities somewhat.
Yeah. And it was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's try that, So I'm very glad that it worked out. And I'm really glad that you found me, because I realized one of the biggest things I want to do with my business is amplify people like you. I want to amplify people that are healers, that are helpers, that are incredibly talented, and you fit the bill across the board. It's interesting for me because it happened very organically. When you're doing readings, it's like you're like, man, I can only help so many people, and I may not be specifically skilled at helping, this particular person or this particular situation. And I started finding people that do those things for my clients and for my viewers.
Yes.
And he's just going to keep barking. 1 second.
That's fine.
There is another dog walking by my house, and I'm really pissed about it, bark. But one of the things I want to do is really amplify you and people like you, because there's not a lot of space, I think, right now. It's sort of, yes, social media, TikTok and Instagram, especially, and YouTube, it's inundated with people that are calling themselves psychics and healers, and you don't really know if they are or not. So you're going to go and you're going to spend your money, and maybe
Yes.
you're with a fake, or you're just get a shit reading, or whatever it may be. So one of my big things is, like, I want to find people like you that are the real deal. You found me. I didn't find you. God bless you for finding me. But
I've been following you for years. I've loved watching all of your stuff. So I think when we connected finally, I said to you, I feel like I know you, and you must get this a lot, but I do. I feel like you're my friend. I've known you for so long. You know, it's because you share so much of your beautiful energy, I think, in your videos, which is why such a lot of people actually, you know, follow you and resonate with what you're saying. And, you know, so that's why you have this sort of magnetic energy. But so I've always sort of felt connected to that. And I know there's I don't know, some sort of a soul bond thing
Yeah,
happening there. I'm not.
yeah. Yeah, no, when I jumped on the camera with you for the reading, I was like, oh, I like her. Like it was just immediate. Like, oh, I like her. This is
Yeah.
she's great. She's great. But so you guys, I have to tell you, when you book, and I know you will book, but when you book with Milani, it's I'm saying the name right? Like I want to say Melanie so
Yes,
bad.
I know that's the English version, but if you want, you can also call me Mel. That's
Um,
yeah,
but
lots of my friends call me that.
when you book with her, you are in if you're in for a treat. It's not like a regular reading. You don't come and say, hey, I have this lawsuit. I mean, you probably could, but you don't. You come and say, look, these are the big weird things going on in my life. I want to know what the F is going on here. It's really unique. It's really helpful. It's really interesting. And I am again, very grateful that you shared your talents and your gifts with us because um, first of all, the remote viewing is super fun. I just love that those are fun videos for me, but also, you know, engaging in a personal reading, it was like, holy shit, you know, it was very, very amazing, very profound. And the way you work is very it's so compassionate, and you get lost in it. I was watching you, you know, we're both kind of doing the reading, but I'm watching, you're sort of lost in what you're doing. I mean, you were just like, it's almost like when you went into those Akashic records, it was kind of like a change came over you. You know, it was, you could
Mm.
see it. You could see kind of like, okay, she's in her mode. Like you are in your groove, you are over here. And it was really, for me, very interesting. You know, I like, you know, you were still there, you were still present, but it was just kind of like to what you switched. I mean, it was just like somebody flipped a switch and it was like, nope, she's over here now. It was really cool. It was really
Mm.
interesting, very interesting. So, where can we find you? Tell me. I will put everything. This is going to go on YouTube, obviously, and TikTok and Instagram and all of those places. But where can we find you? I'll put everything in the box. But tell us all the things.
Okay, so the main way to actually find me is through my website. It is www and then my name and surname, which is Melanie Brits. I'll spell it for you now. .com. So Melanie, like Melanie, but it's the Afrikaans version, obviously. And then my surname, Britz, not the S, .com. So on there, you'll find information about the services, you know, the Akashic Records, the Soul Path, all of that stuff. And there's a place where you can find booking, you know, or you can email me and contact me. So that's basically the one-stop shop for anything you need if you want to connect with me.
Beautiful, perfect. By the
And then,
way,
of course, you know,
just I need to let the Americans know. Z is Z, okay?
the
Be out there like, did she say Z? Do I type in Z-E-D? No, it's Z. It's the letter Z. Okay, they say Z.
Z.
It's a thing.
Okay.
Uh,
Britz. Yes.
and then you have Instagram. You have what else do you have? Where are you on
I
social?
don't use my Instagram a lot. I am on Facebook and I am on TikTok, although I don't post there, you know, a whole lot. And I also have a YouTube channel,
Oh, perfect.
where I also have a few videos, not a whole lot, but I actually made there's a YouTuber called Aaron Doughty. I don't know if you've ever come across him. He actually does quite good stuff. But he made a video about Akashic Records recently. And so, but it was more almost a metaphysical, you know, time travel, parallel universe type of
Cool.
things. And so I've often had, you know, thoughts about sort of how time works and the whole other thing in terms of, you know, my journey with time.
Mm.
And so I commented on there, and there were so many people that commented on my comment that wanted to know more about the Akashic Records and, you know, all this stuff. And so I made two videos. One is an hour long, just about the basics of the Akashic Records. And the other one is sort of my take on quantum physics, you know, in quantum entanglement, all the latest research and stuff, and how that sort of relates to time and the Akashic Records, in my opinion. So it's more of a, you know, out there, out there video, but it is on YouTube somewhere. You should be able to find it if
Okay.
you're that way inclined.
We're gonna need to do a follow-up video where you and I talk about time. We need one. We need one.
You know what, I had an experience in my life that made me question what time is, and so I started studying it quite intensively for a few years, and going into quantum physics and all sorts of the mindfulness. I actually have a mindfulness course on Udemy, you know, all sorts of things that led out of that. But yes, I am quite a big fan of, you know, figuring out what that is. So yes, I did an hour long. I think it's slightly rambling and maybe slightly incoherent as well. I've afterwards thought maybe I should have done it better, but the subject matter is so, you know, weird and out there and difficult to talk to. And then I thought, okay, well, just fuck it, leave it. And you know, what needs to be said there has been said. So
Right.
let's see what people think about it.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, so that goes into parallel universes and timelines, and sort of, you know, if you change something in a past life, does it change the future? You know, all sorts of quantum entanglement and all sorts of nice, interesting goodies, just in terms of my thoughts on it.
I love my favorite phrase is spooky action at a distance. That's one of my favorite quotes.
Yes, that is quantum entanglement. That was what Einstein said.
Einstein.
I
Yeah.
actually used that phrase in my video.
Yeah.
I think that's at the heart of.
I feel like, you know, give Einstein another 100 years and throw a bunch of psychics in front of him and see what he comes up with. Honestly, because I think
Yes,
he'd be like, all right,
yes.
I know how it all works. Let me lay it down for you. Like, I feel like he would
I
have
give up. Yes,
like, this is the equation for psychics. All right, everybody, you know, have a blast. Like, I feel like he would have gone.
yes.
Well, okay, I've kept you long
I
enough.
think
I
so.
know it's late for you over there. So, and by the way, the time thing is not that big of a deal. So if you're booking with her and you're in the US or wherever you are in the world, the time, believe me, it's fine. It'll work. It'll work. You can make it
Yes,
work.
I do. I do lots of readings for clients in the US. And so it's slightly harder if you're sort of California side. The other sort of in the middle, you know, other side is much easier. You know, it's not that difficult. But if you need to, just contact me on my website. You know, there's an email button, so email me, and we'll set a time for you. You know, that could work for both of us. I have actually done it, you know, in the past 2 weeks, that I sort of arrange special times for clients that have an issue with just the times that are available there. So you're welcome to see if we can make a plan for you. We South Africans are good at making plans with lots of stuff. We're known for it.
I love it. I love it. You guys, Milani, thank you so much for being here. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. All the information you need to book. She's going to be a preferred service provider that's going up on the website.
Awesome. Oh,
you
thank you.
check it out. Once again, I want to say I don't get payoffs for this. I don't get paid when you book with these people. I don't get money for this. Basically what happens is I get readings and different modalities from a lot of different people, and I pick the best, and the best goes on my website for you guys. So she's going to be up there for you guys, so you can go find her there. But you can also find her at MilaniBritz.com.
With a Z.
And thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your talent with us. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do love you. I do adore you, and be well.